Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys That Magic. This is Hunter, Steven, David, and Shane. Say what up, boys.
Yo, what's going on?
Hello.
What up, nerds?
Welcome back to another episode of Commander Grades. In case you don't know what this series is, basically we go ahead over the legendary creatures from a set, give our opinions on all of them. Keep in mind they are our opinions. They can vary from yours. So we're just here to have a discussion. But this time, we're taking a look at all of the multicolored legendary creatures from the brand new set, Wilds of Eldraine. So before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already so you're staying up to date with all the content we're doing. And let's jump straight into this video with the very first card we're talking about is Agatha of the Vile Cauldron. It is a red and a green for a 1/1 legendary creature human warlock. It says activated abilities of creatures you control cost X less to activate, where X is Agatha of the Vile Cauldron's power. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. As another ability, you can pay 4 and a red and a green. Other creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample and haste until end of turn. What do we think about this card, David?
I mean, it's a cool effect. I like commanders that are relatively cheap, and coming in at 2 mana, you really can't beat that. So I do like that. I think this is a commander that obviously, like, whenever you build around it, it's going to be doing a lot of things. My big worry, however, being is that, like, this is also a commander that if your opponents do take care of, like, how much does that impact your deck? So, like, does it shut you down in the case that, I don't know, this thing dies? My other thought here being is that, like, the card is cool, but it reminds me a lot of like Zerda, and kind of just like straight whenever it hits the battlefield, I feel like Zerda's a little bit better, given that they are in different colors. So I don't know. There's different things that you can do with the cards. I like it though.
I like it too. I think it's pretty easy to get her own cost down to just Gruul, and you can just keep throwing mana into just Gruul just to pump your entire team and give everything trample and haste. I think it's really powerful.
It's a card that you could play throughout the entirety of your game, which is awesome too. David alluded to that. Anything that comes out early and that can keep coming out like that, I'm a big fan of.
I think the only reason why I don't like this card is I just feel like every card you're going to play is going to be super telegraphed.
That's
you're
cool,
gonna be
dude.
filling up the entire deck with activated ability creatures, which I think is going to be really good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's all pretty telegraphed. That's all. I mean, that's just my main point on it. I mean, normally, you try and maybe get like a sneaky win. This is something that your opponents will probably see from a mile away. I think that's just my only critique on it.
I think if you threw in like an unnatural growth in this, granted, make Agatha's power bigger, and then at combat, unnatural growth will double Agatha's power, and then it will cost however much less, and then just really throw in as a final lethal with the ability, I think is really good.
I mean, I do think that aspect of the card is pretty neat. Like, it's neat, but I think that Steven does kind of like bring up a good point, and I kind of alluded to this too. There's like, you want to be playing creatures that have really powerful and impactful activated abilities, and in this case, they're also probably going to be relatively expensive activated abilities. So if Agatha is not in play, are you just playing bad cards?
I mean, is there a world where maybe you don't have all those activated abilities and your game plan is to get her out and then just go extremely wide and overthrow your opponents?
Oh,
Maybe
absolutely.
Maybe the one you care about is the one on her, and then you're just playing big smashy things.
And Gruul is the perfect way to go big smashy.
So there's probably different ways to take her, but yeah, I see it.
Well, let's move on to the grades. I am very high on Agatha. I'm giving her a B.
I'm going to go with tier down here and go to a C here.
I think I'm with you, Hunter. I think I'm going to stick with the B on this one.
And I am going to go with Steven here. I'm going to give this card a C.
Agatha of the Vile Cauldron is going to get the average grade of a B. Moving on to another 2-mana card. This one is Ash, Party Crasher. It is a red and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature, human peasant. It has haste, and it has celebration, which means whenever Ash, Party Crasher attacks, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Ash. I think we can all agree here it's kind of bad.
Kind of?
It's just underwhelming. Seems like a fine card, but maybe not as a commander.
I don't think this is a fine card at all.
What? 2 mana 2/2 with haste?
Sure.
Do you really?
Not a commander. Not
you
a
really
commander.
want your commander to be a 2/2 with haste? Because, like,
No,
realistically
no.
speaking, the ceiling on this card is that it is a 3/3 with haste.
True. I wasn't
Facts.
defending it as a commander. I'm sorry.
I mean, we're
I'll
in the
play-
commander grades.
Yeah, I mean, granted, red is really good at treasures, so you can always have the celebration, always hit, and will always give itself a +1/+1 counter. But it's still just not good.
I really appreciate you trying to talk nice on it.
Oh, I'll
You
talk
gotta
nice
try.
on it. Yeah. I think we can move on to the grades, though. I still think it does a thing. It's a D.
Yeah, Hunter
Yeah.
does a thing. The D.
Yeah, it does a thing. F.
It does do a thing. It takes up a slot in my deck that could be used for literally anything else. This card is an F.
Ash Party Crasher is getting the average grade of a D. Moving on to Beluna Grandsquall. It is an adventure card with the adventure part calling Seek Thrills. It is 2, a green, a blue, and a red for an instant. It says mill 7 cards. Then put all cards that have an adventure from among those mill cards into your hand. But Beluna Grandsquall cost a green, a blue, and a red for a 4/4 legendary creature giant noble. It's got trample, and permanent spells you cast that have an adventure cost 1 less to cast. We have our very first adventure commander.
And that's why I think it's not as strong for me because I don't know if the support is there for it yet. Could be cool
Well,
down the
I'll
line for me though.
I will tell you the support right now. There are
Tell me.
47 other adventures in these colors.
But now are they playable?
That is for you to decide.
That's true,
Yeah.
I guess.
It's literally what that means.
That's true.
I
What
like
do
the
you think?
design of this card a lot. I think it's cool. I don't know. I feel like every set for the last couple of sets, maybe the last like two or so years, like there's always one legendary creature that gets printed that's like the oddball that does something weird and kind of silly, and that's what we get here. And I like it. It's the adventure commander.
I'm sure someone will have fun brewing around it. It does the thing that you don't like though, Hunter. It's the backwards like cost more and then cost less.
Yeah, I don't like that. Because if you do cast the creature first, you cannot play the adventure part.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward. And then later with commander tax, that'll make that even more expensive, right?
Mm-hmm. It makes
If
me
you, yeah, if you want to, like if you actually do want to use the adventure portion of it. But I mean, that's just more flexibility on this card.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
flexibility for starting at 5, it's going to get really expensive to mill 7.
I mean, I look at it like this: the instant portion of it, that is the late game. Like whenever I don't have those adventures in my hand, that way I can refill. Base for this is probably 3 mana for a 4/4 with trample with upside.
Right, but I'm saying if it dies again and you're casting that instant, it's going to cost like what, 7?
I mean, yeah, but like the plus side here being is if like your opponent is playing this, do you actually want to kill this thing? Because then you're going to potentially reload their hand. Like they actually may want this to die.
Yeah.
Steven, you love doing it for the memes. This seems like a kind of a meme to me. What do you think?
God, I hate this card.
He doesn't do it for the meme, dude.
Listen, man, I'm all for silly, quirky cards, but this card, I can't, man. Like normally, I'm like, oh, I could do this and I can do that and I can build this kind of deck, and I don't have any aspirations for this card whatsoever. I mean, I kind of agree with David. Like, oh yeah, if it dies, you can kind of refill your hand, but you're only putting a couple adventures, and that's if you don't whiff. I think the best thing about this card is the fact that it's a 3 mana 4/4 with trample and a little upside.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Let's move on to the grades, Steven. What do you give me, Beluna Grandsquall?
This really hurts because I feel like everyone out there that loves me for my fun quirkiness is gonna probably hate me, but this is, I think, a D.
I'm going to go middle of the road here. This is a C for me.
Yeah, I think that the brewing possibility can make it a C, but yeah, I'll stay C.
I really love the design of this card. I'm going to go with the C here too.
Beluna Grandsquall gets the average grade of a C. Next up, Brenard, Ginger Sculptor. It is 1, a green, a white, and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature, Human Artificer. It says each creature you control that's a food or a golem gets +2/+2 and has trample. And whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except It's a 1/1 food golem artifact creature in addition to its other types, and it has pay 2, tap it, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. All of your things are now cookies.
Yummy. So all your things can come back? That seems
All your
good.
things can come back as a 3/3 as long as it's on the field.
With trample.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so if they have ETBs, that happens again?
That's true.
This seems like a playable card.
All right, so we're looking at Anixia.
And you get cookies.
Yeah, I think this card is actually deceptively much better than what it initially looks.
I mean, I think this card's great.
I like this card a lot.
So I really do enjoy this card because I think if you have a shit ton of mana and somebody tries to board wipe you, you can always sacrifice all your soulless gingerbread friends for, a little life gain. It's nice, right?
You got the mana, yeah. I think this card's cool because it just kind of it safeguards your things from dying. So like it forces them to kill this first, right? Kill all your creatures and then I just get them back. I feel like they're definitely gonna target this thing first. This is gonna get hate generated.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
gonna
think this will be a hate generator.
Well,
protect this
if they wanna-
somehow for sure.
If they want to kill your stuff, they're gonna kill this first.
I mean, if you're looking to protect it, like you're in Bant, you're in probably
Yeah.
the best color combination to protect it.
Oh yeah, they'll definitely
Uh,
protect it. I'm just saying.
I think we can move on to the grades here. I am a fan of this card, but I'm still gonna give it a C.
I'm going to join you, buddy. I'm going to give it a C as well.
I'll bite. I think this card's a little bit better than a C. I think it's a B.
He said, I'll bite.
I'm going to be with Shane on this one. I think this card is probably more of a B.
All right, Bernard, Ginger Sculptor gets the average grade of a B. Moving on to Eriette of the Charmed Apple. It is 1 white and a black for a 2/4 legendary creature human warlock. It says each creature that's enchanted by an aura you control can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. And at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of auras you control. This, in my honest opinion, should have been the role commander. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this ability is way stronger than that.
I know, but just like base this around everything making rolls, it's really good.
I don't know. I like the way she's printed now, dude. I played with this deck and I had so much fun, dude. It might not have been the best showing that I played, but when we played multiples, like this deck went off in at least one of the matches. I
Yeah.
really like playing on your creatures and then benefiting from it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, Shane is alluding to our gameplay video. If you guys haven't seen that already, check the description where there will be a link. Go check it out. What do you think of this card, David?
I think that it's okay. So, in order for this deck to do anything, you have to be able to protect yourself. You have to be able to have the auras out there that are enchanting your opponent's things, and then I feel like it's also a little meta susceptible in that if your opponents are going to be playing with creatures that have the ability to tap themselves down, or if, for example, your opponents are not really playing very creature-heavy decks, I feel like she gets quite a bit worse. So I think that she's a cool design, and I like to see something that's a little bit different with the life gain aspect of Orzhov. But I think that she's got a lot of variance.
I think she's really cool, man. I mean, just enchant all of your opponent's things. They're going to be getting bigger, and you're just going to buff all the things. You can't get attacked by it. And then, if someone really wants to stop losing life, they have to kill their own creatures.
I'm going to say something that I don't say often. And it's going to suck to say, but I have to say it. I'm going to disagree with David. I think this card is fantastic. I love it. I want to see more of it.
You know
That
what?
was so climactic, dude.
You know what? I actually originally thought that this also goaded the enchanted creatures, and now I'm realizing that it doesn't. So you don't actually even need to you don't really have to do anything with it. You don't have to tap your creature down to try to avoid combat somehow.
No, it
What
just
do you
can't
mean?
attack you.
Can't attack you.
But this,
Oh, I
this
get
deck
that, but I
does
thought
play
it
a
was
lot of
it was
goad.
goaded.
Oh,
Well, it's
no.
'cause I
it's
played
not
goad.
I think that's the thing about this card is, although we're looking at it at, in the aspect of it targeting the opponent's creatures primarily or the opponents in general, I see this as just an all-around aura deck. I mean, you can
Mhm.
build it in all sorts of ways. And I think that's where this card kind of shines the most, is that it does have so many possibilities.
Yeah, I was just gonna attack on to a little point when David said if your opponents don't have anything, that's fine, because like you could just target your own creatures, make them bigger, and then just pass and still gain life and deal damage. I just think that there was multiple avenues that I could play down this road. I'm not trying to say this road. Down this deck, and the deck was just a lot of fun.
Well, let's move on to the grades of Eriette. I'm a big fan of this card. I'm giving it a B.
Big fan. B as well for me. Big B.
I'm a fan. This is a B.
I'm actually not super high on her. I'm going to give her a C.
Eriette of the Charmed Apple is going to get the average grade of a B. Next up, Greta Sweettooth Scourge. It is 1, a black and a green for a 3/3 legendary creature human warrior. It says, when it enters the battlefield, create a food token. It has an ability where you can pay 1 green mana, sacrifice a food, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, activate only as a sorcery, and another ability where you can pay 1 and a black, sacrifice a food, you draw a card and lose 1 life. Does all the things on the 1 cards, Shane.
What? Oh, because it makes the food and then it uses the food?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you
like
say you're a big
correct.
fan of commanders that do what they're supposed to do.
I'm a big fan of commanders that trigger themselves. You're correct. If only they said like on attack or another food. Oof.
There are 53 other cards in this color combination that can create food.
Yeah, you're gonna need it.
I would like to create an opportunity for David to give his opinion on this.
I mean, I feel like food is one of those things where we're probably going to continue to see more like food payoffs and food enablers. We got a ton of it with the Lord of the Rings set. So I think that food may actually be one of those things you want to keep an eye on. It may be getting better and better as time goes on. With that being said, though, this is a commander that you kind of have to dump mana into it for it to really do anything. And I'm never very high on those.
Yeah.
Got to eat the food to do something.
It's not even just eating it, I guess. Just having it, though, you know, like if obviously you're building around food. I'm not saying that you're not. But on turns where you don't have any, the commander's just a 3/3. That kind of is a bummer.
Yeah, unless you sacrifice the 1 food it made and put it on itself, in which case it's a 4/4.
Sorry, you are correct. It is a 4. It could be.
I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that ability was even on the card because the second ability there of drawing a card is just so much better.
Yeah, I liked that one too. But hey, man, for at sorcery speed, you could put a counter on a creature.
I do love that you don't have to worry about doing the card draw at sorcery speed.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, that would have been a bummer. Let's move on to the grades for Greta. Steven, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give it a C. It's all right.
I'm gonna stick with middle of the road. I'm gonna give it a C as well.
I will also be giving this courtesy.
Look at us. I'm also giving it a C too. Greta Sweettooth Scourge is going to get the average grade of a C. Moving on to Hylda of the Icy Crown. It is 2, a white and a blue for a 3/4 legendary creature human warlock. It says whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, you may pay 1. When you do, choose 1. You can create a 4/4 white and blue elemental creature token. You can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, or you can scry 2, then draw a card. I made this deck when we did our EDH gameplay. Once again, if you haven't seen that, check the description and you'll see this deck in action as well. Also, we are going to MagicCon Vegas. If you see us at MagicCon Vegas, feel free to say hi if you want to play a game with us. I personally will have this deck in paper at the convention if you wanted to play against it. But moving on to the card itself, I am very high on Hylda. I really like this. This is a different avenue. A lot of the tap down cards are very, very cheap because it actually isn't a playstyle that is very effective. But with Hylda at the helm, I think it is quite a lot.
Quite a lot it is. This deck is oppressive.
Yeah,
This commander, I should say, is oppressive.
she's fun. You just have to protect her.
Yeah, being able to just pay 1 and continue to make 4/4 tokens, that is nothing to scoff at.
You know,
I'm gonna scoff it. Oh,
yeah.
Steven.
Yeah, I was going to scoff too. You want to scoff, then I'll scoff, or how do you want
Yeah,
to scoff?
you can lead the scoffage.
Okay,
Jesus Christ.
I'll scoff away. I think this card is actually really, really good. I think this card is spectacular. I just think it's so susceptible to removal, as are most cards in Magic. If you're not protecting this card, you're not doing much. But then you're protecting it and wasting your mana, and your turns have to be so timed. It's not even funny. I just think that it is so. It's too calculative almost. I don't know. It's actually kind of weird. Watching Hunter play the deck. If this card died, then you have to pay 6, and then it died again, and you have to pay 8. Like it's so aggressive. And you're really not doing any of that fun stuff you really want to do.
Yeah, I think that this kind of falls into the same trap as what is the Eriette, if that's how we pronounce her, the Charmed Apple, where it's like she's kind of meta dependent. If your opponents are playing with a bunch of creatures that are like their game plan is to go in and win with combat damage, Hylda can be pretty good there. If your opponent is not going down that road, though, Hylda has the potential to do literally nothing against them. And then on top of that, she is super mana intensive. Not only do you have to pay for whatever you're going to be tapping your opponent down with, but you also want to pay for her abilities. Otherwise, she's actually not doing anything. I don't know. She kind of falls into a weird spot with me where she's like kind of mid-rangey-ish, but also really still like you got to keep your mana up in order for her abilities to just like do anything. So I'm actually not very high on her. My only little thing about this too is just because like this is the card that alludes to like Frozen. I feel like you have to sing every time you cast this card.
Let it snow.
Jesus. Yeah, I get the points that you were saying, Steven and David for that matter. She is a mana-intensive commander, and I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're playing EDH, I know that you said, David, if your opponents aren't playing with creatures, but out of 4 players, you're probably gonna have some creatures. But I don't know. This deck was kind of a defensive style, at least when we saw it in play, and then at the end is when it kind of was like, now it's time to go. Like in a one-on-one situation, it definitely did a little bit better than in a 4-player. I don't know. I think you just kind of sit back and tap stuff down, be a little Icy Queen, and then strike.
Strike your opponents with an icicle. Let's move on to the grades. I love this card a lot. I'm giving it a B, though. The only reason I'm giving it a B because you do have to pay that 1 for every creature that you tap down. So you are casting a spell. You have to save up extra mana on top of that.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a B as well with you. All your spells have a kicker 1.
Yeah, I know I scoffed at it, but this is definitely a strong card, so it's going to get a B for me.
I'm going to go middle of the road on this card. I'm going to give it a C.
Hylda of the Icy Crown is going to get a B. Next up, Johann, Apprentice Sorcerer. It's 2, a blue and a red for a 2/5 legendary creature, human wizard. Says you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and once each turn, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from the top of your library. Cool.
Hellslinger, baby.
How effective is that once per turn?
On the bright side, it's not once per year turns, so like you can cast an instant on your opponent's turn.
True. Each turn.
Mm-hmm.
And there is such a massive whiff potential with this.
I mean, in Merry Christmas Land, you hope that you're not showing, I guess. You hope that you look and you're like, ooh, there's a counter there or something, that'd be amazing. But you're going to probably look, David, and you're going to be like, ooh, that's a land. Cool.
Oh, 100% of the time it's going to be a land.
I mean, I'll tell you one card. Sensei's Divining Top is a must include in this deck.
Yeah, you'll definitely be manipulating the top. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, like with always, like, yes, you're going to build around it. You're going to be able to, like, you're going to want to include cards that can manipulate the top card of your library. You're going to have tons of different, like, scry effects and all that kind of good stuff. Even with all of those, this card is not a card you should be playing.
Yeah, I think that's my issue with this card is it's just kind of expensive. I mean, cost-wise, 4 mana. I really wish this came in at like maybe like 2 or 3, which I know might be a little bit too aggressive and pushing it at 2, but I don't know. Like I feel like you'd have to put so much money into this just to make it kind of fun.
Let's move on to the grades. I am not a fan of this card. This is an F for me.
Man.
I'm going to wait for somebody else to jump in here.
I think, are we all doing Fs? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to do an F.
I think it does a thing. I'm going to say D.
It's an F.
Johann, Apprentice Sorcerer, is going to get the average grade of an F. Next up, Kellan the Fae-Blooded. It is also an adventure card. The adventure part is Birthright Boon, which is 1 and a white for a sorcery. That says search your library for an aura or equipment card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Kellan the Fae-Blooded is 2 and a red for a 2/2 legendary creature human fairy. It has double strike, and other creatures you control get +1/+0 for each aura and equipment attached to Kellan the Fae-Blooded. So it wants to put the boots on this, and then
your team.
pump the team.
Yeah.
Make board big. Swing with board.
Board get wiped. Board sad.
I mean, how big do you actually need your board to be? This creature coming down with double strike and then also having a tutor stapled onto it for the adventure portion. I mean, you go off, you find like Colossus Hammer or something, and this is like a 12/12, or yeah, it's like a 12/12 with double strike. This is gonna one-shot somebody as your commander.
That's mean. That's true.
Boros equipment matters. What?
We've seen it maybe once before, and yeah, I think giving your commander double strike is kind of dumb.
Oh no, the commander has double strike.
No, I'm just saying sorry. That's not what I meant. I meant like
In general.
commanders with double strike is dumb.
But my thought here is, it's not commanders with double strike that are dumb. It is commanders with a built-in repeatable tutor that is dumb. Because every time that this guy goes back to the command zone, I'm going to go find some aura or some equipment card.
I guess that's true.
So I mean, like, even in the case that this thing dies, paying 4 mana for a second tutor effect is something I will very happily do.
What about 8 mana?
Even at 8 mana, at that point, if I have an aura or equipment that I want to go find from my deck, like, I think that this card is a slam dunk. I think this may be one of the best Boros equipment or aura commanders that we've seen in a very long time. It's got a very quick kill potential. It's a repeatable tutor in the command zone, so that in and of itself is something that I feel like your opponents really have to keep an eye on.
Yeah. I'm going to say one last thing. It feels weird when you play cards like this, though, in Commander, because a lot of us, we enjoy Commander where it's like, every game's different. This deck, every game will be pretty similar. I feel like you're going to be playing like a standard deck where, like, you know what you're doing with this deck, you're doing it. You're doing the thing. That could get kind of old after a while.
I mean, I get your point, but to me, it's like, I look at this and I think, okay, well, this is like a Boros version of like Syr the Enchanter, and that is a very good deck when built properly.
I mean, listen, this is a Boros commander with a tutor. I mean, what? So Boros gets better. Like, what else can we say about it?
All right, well, let's move on to the grades. David, you seem pretty high. What are you giving Kellan?
I'm actually going to give Kellan an A. I love tutors, especially on the command zone. So, yeah, he's getting an A for me.
I will say that he's going to get a B from me.
I'm going to say he gets a B for me as well.
It'll be a B.
Kellan, the Fae-Blooded, gets the average grade of a B. Moving on to the brand new Korvold Gleeful Glutton is 5 black, red, green for a 4/4 legendary creature, Dragon Noble. It says the spell costs 1 less to cast for each card type among permanents you've sacrificed this turn. It has flying, trample, and haste, and it says whenever Korvold deals combat damage to a player, put X +1/+1 counters on Korvold and draw X cards, where X is the number of permanent types among cards in your graveyard. There are 6 different permanent types.
Are you sure? I feel like that's wrong.
Good luck sacrificing all those.
Yeah, it's true. There's 6.
Talk me through it real quick. What are the 6?
You've got creature. You've
Okay.
got artifact. You've got enchantment. You've got planeswalker. You've got battle.
And?
I missed one. Hang on.
Land.
Land. There you go.
You're right. I was thinking of card type. That's why my number there was skewed. I was like, I swear this is more than this.
Permanent type.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you can sacrifice all those obscure types, go for it, man. But this is an expensive card.
So, okay. Devil's advocate time here. It's not really that difficult to sacrifice a land. There's fetch lands out there, so like, go ahead and do that. Also, you're playing in a Jund deck. Chances are you're probably going to have treasures. That's an artifact. So, yeah, he cost 8, but like, I could see him pretty reasonably coming out for 6. I could also see it because, I mean, once again, he's a Jund deck, so like, you could be sacrificing creatures for additional value. I could see him costing less. However, he still starts really high.
Technically, if you sacrifice the treasure, it's costing 2 less.
Why?
Why?
Because you get to spend
Use the
that
treasure
mana
for
from
the
treasure.
mana.
I mean, yeah, you get to, but I'm not going to say that that's a cost reduction.
Yeah. This guy is just, I don't know.
He's
Actually,
doing the
really-
exact opposite of the old Korvold, which is weird, and I don't like it.
I just feel like they're trying to like fix the old Korvold, because the old Korvold is completely busted and just like such an incredible draw engine that like they're trying to make this dragon a little bit more fair.
I think this card's great. I like it a lot.
Cool.
You want to elaborate to your point there, Steven?
That's cool.
No, not really.
All right. I think this card, it doesn't really do a whole lot, but it does just enough where my opponent is going to see that it costs 8 mana, and they're going to counter it, and then my deck is not going to do anything for the rest of the game.
Yeah. I was going to
I
just say
think this
too.
comes out way earlier than it's probably like slated to come out, and it's going to catch somebody by surprise. I think you're going to swing in for Flying Trample Haste. This will be a 4/4 originally, and if you don't really stop it, it's going to get super big, and you're going to start drawing a lot of cards. And I think that you're in Jund, and I don't ever really see this card ever costing exactly what it should. And I think this card is going to be kind of scary. Is it better than the other Korvold? No, obviously. But I think this is pretty good. Granted, when you build this deck, I hope you have a pretty large bank account.
I think maybe that's also my problem, is like, I look at a card like this and I want to be jamming as many fetch lands as I possibly can, but if I'm going to be investing that kind of money into a Korvold deck, this is not the Korvold I'm choosing at the helm.
I just don't see this deck having a reduction of less than 3 reliably. Like creature, land, artifact. How are you sacrificing enchantment, planeswalker, battle? Like I don't see it.
I'm
Totally
Shane.
understandable. I don't think you're getting rid of your enchantments. I don't think there's enough like battles to be even considered, because most of them are not playable, and you're not going to be sacrificing your planeswalkers for things.
Let's move on to the grades. Steven, you liked this card. What are you giving it?
I really like this card. And if you have a really large bank account, this card's probably a B. But for us more mediocre bank account players, like myself, this is a C.
I was never going to go higher than a C. I'm sticking with it. C.
C for me.
I'm going to go with a D. I think this card is borderline not playable.
Korvold Gleeful Glutton gets the average grade of a C. Next up, Neva, Stalked by Nightmares. It is 2, a white and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature human noble. Got Menace, and it says when it enters the battlefield, return target creature or enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. And whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Neva, then scry 1. I think this seems really good.
What?
I think this seems really good. It's
So-
it's in the right color to blink. It's in the right color to reanimate. Seems like a good card.
Help me out here. Are there ways to go infinite with this? With the reanimate dead card? Like
Couldn't
oh
tell
my
you.
goodness, the enchantments that you loop. I know that most of the time whenever I'm like goofing around with those cards, I'm also playing red, which this deck obviously wouldn't have access to, but I feel like there's got to be something here.
KCI loop, what was you're talking about?
No, it's not a KCI
No.
loop.
I can't think of another one that just infinitely puts things in your graveyard and then pulls them back.
Yeah,
I think
so
I think he's talking about, like, Steven, you threw that into your new 300 upgrade, right? There's like a loop.
I mean, a creature needs to enter the battlefield.
like animate dead is the card that I'm alluding to here, which is an enchantment. It's an enchantment aura, so like typically you use it to be able to like bring a creature back, and then you get rid of the creature, and then the enchantment comes back, and like they cycle through each other. So you're like constantly throwing the creature and the enchantment into the graveyard. So like this would be potentially a way, if you can, in Orzhov, to be able to put an infinite number of +1/+1 counters on her, and then stack your deck.
Mm-mm. Combo decks, baby.
Yeah, this is just going to be like, this is a combo deck.
Shocker.
Shocker. So what do you think about it then, David?
I really love the artwork.
The artwork's pretty cool.
I don't know how to build this deck in a way that is like not specifically trying to point me towards a combo, and I don't feel like she's actually even all that great, even whenever we do go down that route. So I don't know. I feel like this is a commander that if I'm playing in like lower power, this is not something I'm probably going to consider because I don't think that she's generally like impactful enough. And if I really want to bump up the power level of things, I feel like she kind of misses that mark too. So I think she's in a weird spot.
I think this is just, Orshoffs being Orshoffs, just instead of being more tribal with like, sack outlets and stuff like that. Now you're doing it with more enchantments probably. And then you can still do it with creatures. So just it's an interesting card. It's just continuing the trend. It's like Boros equipment matters, but white black.
I think if you're a combo player, you probably gravitate to it, but
I think also you can kind of just loop herself if you have like teleportation circle. Say you have this on the field and you have an aura attached to it. Then at the end step, you're going to blink this, which gets rid of the aura, puts it into your graveyard. This enters, it returns the aura back to your hand. There's like a weird loop there. David, you're right.
Yeah, it's like I feel like this is a commander that like when she does her thing, your opponents are probably not playing the game, which I feel like is going to also incentivize your opponents just like keep this thing under counter control, to where it's like they're just going to try and get rid of this before it's ever like resolving. They're just going to keep a counter up for it.
Let's move on to the grades. Shane, what do you think?
I think that if you're a combo player, you're going to like it. I personally am going to give it a C, though.
I'm actually going to give Neva a B.
I'm going to give this card a B as well. I love the artwork. I think the card has some power to it. I'm just like not a big fan necessarily of like kind of where it fits in. I feel like it's at a weird power level.
You can get it as a big dumb beater too. With that loop you were talking about.
You
just
can't
keep bringing that
beater.
Bringing that enchantment back to the field, into the graveyard, back to the field, into the graveyard. Just get so many counters.
I mean, yeah, but it's also scrying every single time you do that. Never mind. I've already shared my grade. I don't want to discuss this card further.
Yeah, it's a B.
Neva Stalked by Nightmares is going to get the average grade of a B. Next up is Obyra, Dreaming Duelist. It's a blue and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature, Fairy Warrior. It's got flash, it's got flying, and it says whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I do like this card.
I mean, 2 mana 2/2 with flash and flying. Ugh. Sign me up.
Talk about fairy tribal, dude. There is a whopping 108 fairies in these colors. Go crazy.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, it's basically a 2 mana 2/2, and it's got a bunch of tribalness in it, and it's in great colors. Dimir.
What's your favorite color combination?
It really is my favorite color combination. Not to mention, I mean, at this point, this is combo central. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. You can blink fairies. Blue, keep dealing damage to your opponent every time it enters. It's good. David, what do you think?
In general, I don't actually think I'm super high on this card.
Why not?
I love the flash. I love the fact that this thing is cheap. However, I don't think there's enough like good fairies for you to like really take advantage of this ability. For the most part, I feel like what you're probably going to want to be doing is like bouncing fairies from the battlefield back into your hand and then potentially like reusing their abilities on their ETBs. But I don't think that there's really enough there. I know that there are 108 fairies in these colors, so like the deck is doable. I think it could be a lot of fun. However, as far as just like general power level, go through the fairies. There's actually not a ton of which that are like super impactful.
This seems like a fun fairy, but it doesn't really trigger itself, and there is another fairy that does trigger itself, and I like that one, meaning that it produces a fairy. So this one, it seems like it'd be fun in that deck, but if I'm having to choose between the two, I wouldn't play this as much. I don't like this card as much.
You're alluding to the new Alila.
I am alluding to that Alila, yes.
Yeah, it's not a. I like this card. Let's move on to the grades. Shane?
This one feels like more of a middle, so I'm sticking with a C.
I think at 2 mana, this coming down early. I think it's going to get annoying. I'm going B.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. 2 mana is my favorite cost for a commander.
I mean, I like the cost and I like the flash. I just don't think it's very impactful. I'm going to go with Shane on this one. I'm going to go with the C.
Obyra, Dreaming Duelist, gets the average grade of a B. Next up, Rowan, Scion of War. It is 1, a black and a red for a 4/2 legendary creature human wizard. It has Menace. You can tap it. It says spells you cast this turn that are black and or red cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you lost this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. David, this was the deck that you built for our EDH gameplay. Once again, down in the description, if you haven't already seen that EDH gameplay, we battle them all against each other. Who comes out on top? You'll have to find out. But, David, you did build this. What do you think of Rowan Scion of War?
So this may be one of my favorite commanders of all time, because if you ever find yourself in a position where it's like 10 o'clock at night and your buddies want to get in a game and you're like, man, I'm not really so sure. It's kind of getting a little bit late. I got work tomorrow morning. This is exactly the deck that I'm going to pull out, because this is the deck where I'm either going to kill myself immediately or I'm going to kill myself and the rest of the table immediately. Like this is the epitome of let's not go to late game.
This is the epitome of let's either end the game or kill myself. I get it. It's a very fun card. I like this card a lot. Yeah, everything you said, David, I agree with.
I think the only downside here really being is she has to tap in order for her ability to be relevant, and she does not have haste. So your opponents can very clearly see what is coming. And then like there is the potential, of course, that they just counter the thing after you have nuked your life total. So you're going to be playing with fire here, but I mean, if that is your like forte, if that's something that you're interested in, this commander is really good at that.
Yeah, and I hope you have gas in your hand. Because if you have gas in your hand, this commander's going to go nuts. But
Torment the Hellfire, dude. Let's go.
yeah, I mean, at that point, you're hoping on the top of your library. But either way, like, the card seemed really fun. I was quite jealous of you playing it, David.
This card is great. I think this card is actually super well put together. But if there is no protection on this card, I mean, you might as well kiss it goodbye. I don't ever really see this card doing much if there's no protection on it. This card is terrifying because I don't really think, alluding to Shane's point, you need gas in your hand. I think that you play around this card, and I think you keep a hand that is able to get this out early, protect it, and then not possibly maybe win you the game, but get you there very quickly. Alluding to David's point where you're going to kill yourself, you don't have to pump fucking 39 life into something, I think that's kind of where I see a lot of people making the mistake. I think you don't need to kill yourself. I think you just need to do a little bit of damage and then just kind of go from there. David, you did a lot of cool things with this card where you did a lot of damage yourself and then gained a lot of life. And I think this card has a really high ceiling, but a very low floor.
I completely agree with you. It's a very wide legendary creature.
It's a gamble. The true gamble commander here. Let's move on to the grades. David, what are you giving Rowan?
I absolutely love this card. It's a C.
I'm actually giving her a B.
Yeah, I think this card actually really does deserve to be an A, but for the simple fact that it is so insanely all over the place, it's got to be a B.
Well, David, I saw you do work. Therefore, I'm giving it a B.
Rowan Scion of War gets the average grade of a B. Moving on to Ruby, Daring Tracker. It is a red and a green for a 1/2 legendary creature human scout. Got haste. It says whenever Ruby Daring Tracker attacks while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, Ruby gets +2/+2 until end of turn. You can also tap it for a red or a green. This is your favorite mana cost, Steven. What do we think of Ruby?
This is awful. If I wanted a mana dork in my command zone, I don't. Never mind.
I love your breakdown here. It's so thorough, but I agree with every point.
Seems like you're needing to do a lot of stipulations to do the thing.
I mean, it's not a lot of stipulations. You just need a creature with power 4.
Uh-huh.
The thing here is ramp. the thing it wants to do is ramp. You want to get big creatures, and that's what the commander wants to do. It comes in as a mana dork. I mean, granted, it has haste, so you can tap it right away, but as it's coming in, I don't think you have anything else to play. Maybe another mana dork. But I don't know. It's simple.
Cool. So I build my deck to put a 4/4, and then I play this on the next turn, and then this is a 3/5 or 3/4. I'm sorry. Until the end of the turn.
Mm-hmm.
Play this with like Ragadraga. Maybe not
Oh,
as a
cool. So
commander,
then
but-
we're all in agreement. This is support, not a good commander. Okay, let's move
Yeah,
on to the
it's like-
grades so I can give this an F.
Oh my god.
Chill out, brother.
This card is so bad.
This card is awful.
I don't think you're ever going to be attacking with it. I think it's just a utility piece that's sticking in your command zone, just a little mana dork. I don't know. But we will move on to the grades. Steven, you're pretty
F.
adamant. Okay. I still think it does something. It's a D for me.
It does something. It's a D.
This is an F. I'm with Steven. This card is not good.
Ruby Daring Tracker is going to get the average grade of a D. Moving on to Sharae of Numbing Depths. It is 2, a white and a blue for a 2/3 legendary creature, Merfolk Wizard. It says when it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls, put a stun counter on it. And whenever you tap one or more untapped creatures your opponents control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. This was actually in my Hylda deck. I thought it was a good support piece. It would be cool to continue to blink this to stun everything. That would be pretty annoying.
And that's the ceiling, I think, on this card.
That is the ceiling.
Can we take a moment to talk about the best thing about this card and the artwork? Like, that artwork, first off, is amazing. Also, too, this Merfolk has, like, tail legs.
Yeah,
It does have tail legs.
Very. They morph, David, when you get deeper in the water. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's not like, because I'm trying to logistically think about this. I'm imagining it working like a propeller, where like they just kind of spin it around in a circle.
Oh,
That would be something. What do you think of it as a card?
I mean, I basically shared everything about the card that I thought was good.
yeah, you're not wrong.
Hunter, I agree with you completely. I think this is more utility for another commander. If you do build this as the commander for your deck, I think you just build it as a blink deck. Another combo-centric deck.
You get a stun, and you get a stun.
Yeah, stuns are pretty annoying because then, again, blue is good at proliferating too. So you're going to put
That'd be
stun
cool.
counters. You're just going to keep putting stun counters.
Now you have 50 stun counters.
Now you'll never untap. Sorry about it. Let's move on to the grades. I'm actually going to give it a C. I do think it has the ability to do exactly what I just said, and that would be pretty annoying.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be C as well with you.
Yeah, I'll give it a C.
I'm gonna go with a D. I just think this requires way too much setup to be decent.
Sharae of Numbing Depths is going to get the average grade of a C. Moving on to Syr Armont, the Redeemer. It is 3, a green, and a white for a 4/4 legendary creature human knight. It says when it enters the battlefield, create a monster roll token attached to another target creature you control. That means if you control another roll on it, put that one in the graveyard. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. Also, enchanted creatures you control get +1/+1. Whoa.
Lord.
Shane, say it.
It's a lord! The Sir Lord.
Sir Lord. You can blink it to turn the team into monsters.
Sure.
Rawr.
Cool.
Waste of a turn.
I don't know, 5 mana for an Anthem effect seems a bit much.
Is this
What do
even
you
really
mean,
like
dude?
an anthem effect though? Because it's enchanted creatures. It's not just like enchanted or enchantment. There's extra steps required with this card.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it enters the battlefield and basically gives something +2/+2 in trample. Wow.
Can't even give it to itself, dude.
Can't give it to, so you can't turn itself into a monster. It is not a
Rawr.
monster.
It's a lord.
It's a lord.
Lord never lie. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm not on this card.
David, what do you think?
I'm not here for it. This is kind of, I feel like, expensive, fragile, and doesn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think my opinion is I'm not here for it. I think this is super expensive, fragile, and it really doesn't do a whole lot.
You know, I'm really just not here for it. It's a little fragile, a bit expensive, and I'm just kind of not here for it.
All right, let's move on to the grades. Syr Armont, I'm giving it a D.
I'm gonna give it a D as well.
Let me give it an F.
I'm gonna give it a D.
Syr Armont, the Redeemer, is getting the average grade of a D. Moving on to Talion, the Kindly Lord. It is 2, a blue and a black, for a 3/4 legendary creature, Fairy Noble. It's got flying. It says, as Talion, the Kindly Lord, enters the battlefield, choose a number between 1 and 10. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the chosen number, that player loses 2 life, and you draw a card. David, you love this card.
I do. I think that this is fantastic design. I also think that this is like a really weird card because I feel like its power level shifts very significantly based off of the meta. I think that this is a card that, like, the more powerful the meta is, the more powerful this card is too. So I can definitely see this like making waves even up at like CEDH level, but I actually don't think this is very good at like a super casual kitchen table.
I think this is a fantastic card. This card has been making waves in the community where like every other video on people's channel is, what is the number crunching for the best number in all of Magic to put the number when you choose?
Is it 2? Is it 3?
They all number crunch the exact same thing. It's 2. The answer is 2. Always pick 2 when you play this card. You'll get the most value out of it.
Yeah, I would agree.
By the way, we're going to be going to MagicCon Vegas, where I will actually be bringing this deck in paper. So sit down, play with us, and let me name 2.
He's gonna pick 2.
You might pick 2. Watch out, everybody.
So this card is really good if you're thinking about playing CDH, and kind of meh if you're playing anything casual.
We can't keep making the same joke.
I mean, but like I don't want to make the same joke. I think that's the issue with this card is that that's the case. Like it's not like I'm trying to say this card is like it's not good in casual, I don't think. There's so many. I don't think it's good in casual.
I mean, I get his point. Like, if your opponent is playing Hydra Tribal and their average drop is like coming in at like 6 mana, you're probably not going to be drawing a whole lot of cards off this. Realistically speaking, though, like
one opponent.
Okay, that was what I was getting ready to go with. But realistically speaking, though, you are normally going to have more than just one opponent. So, like, chances are they're still going to be doing things. And, like, a lot of the support and utility cards will still be able to trigger this, assuming that you did go low. But, I mean, I don't know. You could play this for fun and then drop it and then name 10 and just, like, see what it does.
I mean, but, like, here's my thing. I mean, like, in all reality, like, is this even really... I mean, I don't really think it matters. I don't think this card is as good as people kind of give it credit for. Whoa. Cool. So my opponent loses 2 life for playing a card. And I get to draw a card. Okay, cool. There are so many cards that can enable me to draw cards that do it way cheaper.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. It's pretty powerful to draw cards for free, and especially at higher power tables. Like,
but it's not. But I understand you're saying it's for free, but it's so specific.
I understand that.
Let's say this comes down turn 4, okay, on curve.
Yeah,
I've probably already gotten most of my fucking shit out already. Like,
keep in mind,
if we're going, go ahead.
This doesn't just say mana value; it's also power or toughness. So later on in the game, if your opponent drops a 4-drop that happens to have 1 power, that still triggers this card.
If you chose 1.
Yeah, if you chose 1. But like that being my thing is like it casts such a wide net. It would not surprise me for you to draw 6 to 8 cards per turn cycle. Like when this thing is really humming. Yes.
Yeah. Just think about all the mana rocks. They're all 2. You don't always play the mana rocks on early game. You'll draw 1 late game. You'll get value.
Sure. I mean, but like, are you playing this late game after it's died for, for 6, 8, 10 mana and still choosing 2, hoping I play an Arcane Signet?
No, in that case, you might be able to choose something different. That's why the flexibility of between 1 and 10 is so great.
Steven doesn't like it.
I just think it's so all over the place. I really do think this has one spot and it's super high power play. I don't really see this in any kind of casual format and it doing great.
I mean, you could also use the like cloning effects where the clone is non-legendary and just start naming all of the numbers.
That would be crazy.
That would be, dude. Put that in your deck for MagicCon.
Sure. And then I'll board wipe the board, and you'll gain 2 life, or I'll lose 2 life, and you'll draw a card.
You're also assuming that after I've drawn 1,000,000 cards, they don't have a counter spell.
True.
I mean, if it's a free one, we're probably playing higher level play.
But that is my point, though. Is like in going back to what I originally said. This is a commander that I feel like does scale. It's the more powerful the meta, the more powerful this card is.
So it's got a high floor or a high. How do you say
I think
that?
this card has an absurdly high ceiling, and it's probably got a decent enough floor where it's just good, even if this card is like mismatched.
Hey, man, I like her, but
Let's move on to the grades. David, what are you giving Talion?
I'm gonna give it an A. I think this card is an A.
I am joining you. Talion is getting an A from me as well.
I'm gonna say B.
I mean, I'm going to be that guy, and I'm going to base my grade on what I feel like most of the people that watch us play, and that's casual, and that's kind of what I play. And I'm going to put this at a C.
Well, the average grade for Talion is going to be a B. Moving on to the Goose Mother. It is X, a green and a blue. For a 2/2 legendary creature, bird Hydra. It's got flying. It says the Goose Mother enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever the Goose Mother enters the battlefield, create half X food tokens rounded up. And whenever the Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, draw a card.
You want to talk about a high ceiling?
Dude, do
Go
it for the meme, Steven.
Do it for the meme, Steven. Talk to me about it.
I mean, I just, this is Simic. I mean, come on, man. I feel like an infinite mana combo is right there, buddy.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna do this for the meme, though.
Cast
I
this
feel like this is
for
a meme.
Cast this for $1 million. Make 500,000 make 500,000 food tokens.
And then just gorge yourself.
Just have all that food. Wait for my opponent to play a dockside.
Yeah. I mean, look, by your point here, even if you do sink an infinite amount, so you name some stupidly high number, it gains you a life, and it's a big dumb beater. It's a big dumb beater with a little bit of evasion. It's got flying. But like, best case scenario, this did not win you the game. This may not have even like prevented you from losing the game.
Well, best case scenario, it would win you the game, David.
How so?
Well, best case scenario, I casted it for at least 21, and then I hit you for commander damage, and you died.
Okay. That is killing a player. That is not winning the game.
Well, in my situation, it's a one-on-one.
All right.
You guys
In
want to know a
Shane's
secret?
situation.
This
What?
card's not great. Like, sarcasm is a thing.
I just doing it for the memes, dude.
You like the memes.
I like the memes, but I also like winning.
Yeah, I think it's
I like
funny.
it when my memes win.
The card's
Big
funny.
bird. Big bird.
Goose Mother, but no. Let's move on to the grades. I'm giving the Goose Mother a no in the form of a D.
Yeah. If meme could be spelled with a D, I'd give it a D. So I'm gonna give it a D.
I'm gonna give this a C. Sorry, boys. I don't think it's that bad.
Whoa.
There's plenty of ways to do some fun stuff with treasures, and you just have to swing with it. Sacrifice one of the.
Well, that says
I
food.
said
so.
food. I keep saying treasures, guys. I'm sorry, but there's plenty of ways to win with artifacts in general. Is what I should have said. I apologize. And all you got to do is attack with this, and you get to sack it and draw a card. And I think that's pretty fun.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to give this a D.
The Goose Mother is going to get the average grade of a D. Moving on to one of my favorite things to say. Totentanz, Swarm Piper, is 1 and a black and a red for a 2/3 legendary creature, human warlock bard. It says when it or another non-token creature you control dies, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. Also has another ability, you could pay 1 and a black, target attacking rat you control gains death touch at a turn. Rakdos Rats.
This reminds me of
Rat dose.
the Cookie Man. Now all the things that die are gonna come back as black rats.
No, because that one actually, like, you get the creature a second time, so you get the ETB and all the other kind of cool abilities stable onto it. This, you get a 1/1.
Yeah, your thing still dies. Doesn't come back, it just turns into a rat.
All right, so it's like that Maleficent whatever spirit then, where when your spirit dies, you get a spirit. If you're playing Rakdos and you're sacrificing stuff, though, you just get to sacrifice and then get more things to sacrifice. That kind of seems good.
I mean, I think this card's
Reassembling
great.
Skeleton. Stack that, get a rat. Bring it back, sack it, get a rat.
I think this card's an A. You could put old Flitterfang in it, or Flitterfang,
Oh, Flitterfang.
and that in itself is it's an A grade.
David.
I don't think David likes it.
Mr. Rakdos.
I like the art. I like
Yeah.
the mana cost. I'm a huge fan of just like general Rakdos. Rakdos' whole thing at this point has just become like sacrifice, so I feel like this competes with way too many other legendary creatures. And as far as it goes with like everything that's stapled onto this, breeding a 1/1, it's cool. I can use it as sack fodder. There's other commanders out there that generate sack fodder that are better than this. And the second ability of having your creature gain Death Touch is not relevant.
I don't think it's relevant, but I think the ability just to sacrifice something and get another body immediately, just keep doing that over and over, is good. Let's move on to the grades. Sakdos strikes again for me. I'm just giving it a B.
Whoa, that's not what I thought you were going to say at all.
Well, I was going to give it a B if Hunter gave it the right name, so I'm going to go ahead and give Rakdos a C.
I think I'm in the middle of the road on this one and giving it a C as well.
I think we are all over the place with this card. I'm giving it a D.
Totentanz gets the average grade of a C. Moving on to the guy that's running away from the Goose Mother. This is Troyan, Gutsy Explorer. It is 1, a green and a blue for a 1/3 legendary creature, Vedalken Scout. You can tap it to add a green and blue. Spend this mana only to cast spells with mana value 5 or greater, or spells with X in their mana costs. And it has another ability. You can pay 1 blue, tap it, draw a card, then discard a card. It seems like a good Simic big stuff commander. Good way to ramp into it.
Yeah. It comes out and doesn't really do anything for a while, though.
I don't know. The mana dork aspect of this card is restrictive enough where I'm pretty down on that. I do like the filtering ability on it, but I mean, like, you have to tap it and it's mana intensive, so you're probably not doing it more than once. This just seems really slow. It might occasionally do something. It's not good.
But he stole the Goose Mother's golden egg.
It did.
That's great.
And it fits perfectly in the Goose Mother because the X cost.
Well, yeah, it came
put
from
it
it.
in there.
So what you're saying, Hunter, is it's more of a support card?
100%.
Kind of. Yeah.
Oh, this card fits in the Goose Mother. I thought you were talking about the egg. I was about to say, no shit.
You're stupid.
See if you have anything to say.
I mean, it's again another mana dork in the command zone. I guess if you're thinking about it like that, it's not terrible, but I'd rather have this as a support card.
Whoa. I'm going to pause you right now. The last mana dork in the command zone, you've given F.
Yes, but that mana dork literally made 1 mana, not 2, and it just gave itself +2/+2. At least this one enables you to draw a card and start filtering through your deck a little bit, and then it helps you cast greater cards. So I don't.
Yeah, but that other mana dork had haste. You could tap it right away, and you could use that mana on whatever you wanted to. This one is restrictive.
I'd rather use this.
All right.
Yeah, this card is better.
Let's move on to the grades. Shane, what are you giving Troyan? You love Simic.
I love Simic, dude. It's just slow, and I feel like I'm getting so many C's tonight. It's a C.
This is a D.
This is a D.
I'm with Shane here. Troyan's getting a C from me. The average grade for Troyan Gutsy Explorer is going to be a C. Moving on to Rowan's brother. This is Will, Scion of Peace. It is 1, a white and a blue for a 2/4 legendary creature human wizard. It has Vigilance, and it has another ability. You can tap it. Spells you cast this turn that are white and or blue cost X less to cast, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So, David, pretty much the exact opposite of Rowan. What do we think?
So I built both of these. I have both of them actually up on Moxfield if we want to link that. Playing around with Will, I realized it is actually significantly more difficult to gain a bunch of life in like a rapid short-term effect than what it is for you to lose a bunch of life. The other thing here being is the payoffs in white-blue tend to not actually be as powerful as the payoffs in red-black. So I do think that this card actually has a much lower ceiling. I don't think this is probably going to be a card that you're going to be able to combo off and just like win the game with. But as far as a value engine goes, this one having vigilance means you can still get in an attack with it. There's ways that you can potentially like give this lifelink so that it starts to self-proc. So there is a little bit of a trade-off here. I know that the cards like they want to mirror each other, but I don't actually think in terms of playstyle they do. I think this one is much slower and is much more of like kind of grindy, slow value over the course of the game, whereas Rowan is incredibly explosive.
Yeah, I got more of like a pillow 40 deck out of this one, right?
Yeah, this one is much more pillow 40, and like the big X spells that you're going to be able to like capitalize off of. They're not going to kill your opponent. They might make tokens for you or draw you like a ton of cards, which those are still really good. It's just that like, do I want to draw 20 cards or do I just want to like end the game with a victory? There's a difference between the two. And I mean, I'm not saying that like it's bad to stack your hand or to create like a massive board state, because obviously that's still really good. I mean, I'm just like, at this point, I'm comparing a card that I think has a super high ceiling to another card that also is very powerful.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You're going to put in that X spell, it's going to be most likely you're going to be doing just a bunch of tokens. And then we can drop Moonshaker Cavalry, the new card from Eldraine, and kill someone.
Oh, that'd be fun. I would like that.
My other little thing here being is there's actually a lot of really good cards that have you lose life. There's not really a ton of good cards that have you gain life without being kind of mana intensive. So it creates a weird play pattern.
I think the difference is with Rowan, you were casting things, like you said, just to lose life. This just feels like you're gonna have creatures that have lifelink, and when they get in, you can use his ability. So it's kind of like a will I won't I, whereas Rowan is kind of was like, I'm doing this.
Well, that's because a lot of the times life is a resource that you can spend, and you can't just use a resource to gain life without using mana. It's difficult.
And that kind of being the thing too is that like when playtesting this, it's not uncommon for you to like nuke your life total with Rowan, and then all your things cost like 30 less. But with Will, whenever you are getting in with those lifelinkers, it's like, okay, my stuff costs 3 to 5 mana less this turn. Like they're still impactful. It's just not as big.
I love this card.
I love your comments.
I mean, it's in blue and white. Plenty of ways to gain life. Granted, like David said, payoff's not as strong, but I think that there are tons of cards when you're building around a certain commander that this could probably do some fun shit. Granted, just like everyone's mentioned so far, it is extremely slow.
Yep.
Like you need a lot of stuff to support this card.
Well, let's move on to the grades. I'm still high on it enough. I still think it's pretty powerful in the right build. That's why I'm going to be giving it a B.
You said that just slow enough for me to give this a C. Just as slow as it is.
I think I'm with you, Hunter. I think I'm going to stick with a B on this one. The brother and sister are pretty strong.
And because of that reason, I'm actually going to give this one a C. I think he's the safer option, but not as, well, potentially powerful.
Will, Scion of Peace, is getting the average grade of a B. And the final card we're talking about today is Yenna, Red-Tooth Regent. It is 2, a green and a white for a 4/4 legendary creature elf noble. Has an ability to pay 2, tap it, choose target enchantment you control that doesn't have the same name as another permanent you control. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. If the token is an aura, untap Yenna, Red-Tooth Regent, then scry 2. Activate only as a sorcery. Doubling up on enchantments is always really, really powerful.
This card is great.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah,
I absolutely love this card so much.
imagine having 2 doubling seasons. Seems really good.
Imagine building populate deck and just making a shit ton of tokens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously the enchantment is the stronger of the two, but I also like the flexibility of like, if you have enough mana and you do have auras, you could just do this on like 3 of your auras. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, she does go nuts. Obviously, you do need to build around her. I think my only gripe with this is that For 4 mana, the turn you cast her, you're not doing anything. And then past that point, she is a bit mana intensive, coming in at 2 mana and having to tap her. So I think she's a little slow. I feel like this is going to be a deck that, I don't know. If you can get it going, there's a lot of power here, but it's going to take a lot to get it going.
Yeah, a little
I
fragile.
mean, I agree. I think this is a deck you build super pillow fort.
Ooh, doubling up on stacks pieces.
Ooh, that'd be so annoying.
I know, dude. What's worse than one rule of law?
I mean,
Actually, just one
I was
does.
gonna say, I don't think that matters.
Well, let's move on to the grades for Yenna. Steven, what are you giving it?
Oh, okay, boys. Hear me out.
Okay, here we go.
I'm going to give this an A.
I thought you were gonna go so low for some reason.
No, I love this card so much. I really do enjoy it, and I've been thinking about building this for a long time. And by long time, I mean since the set released.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna give my A as well in this video. I think that if you're an enchantment player, this is very strong.
Activating only as a sorcery doesn't allow you to really do anything on
okay.
instant speed, so I'm gonna give it a C.
Wow.
I am also going to give this card a C. I think it just requires too much of a setup, and just it's slow when your opponents can kind of really see what's coming.
Yeah, lots of enchantment.
Enchantment removal will be a bummer.
A farewell, dude. I just quit the game.
That's what I do.
Yenna Red Tooth Region is getting the average grade of a B. And that is going to do it for all of the multicolored legendary creatures from Wilds of Eldraine. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Steven, remind the people of what we're doing at the end of September.
Hunter, we are actually going to MagicCon Las Vegas.
Yeah, we're super excited to go to MagicCon Vegas. Hopefully, we have the opportunity to meet some of you. I know that we're going to be bringing a couple like goodies to pass out as well. Love all the feedback that we consistently get on all of these videos. So being able to meet some of our fans in person is something we're really looking forward to. Being able to sit down, play a couple games, say hello, and all that other kind of fun stuff. So hopefully, we get the opportunity to see you there.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see you all there. If you check the description, you will find links to our Instagram, our Twitter, and our TikTok. That's at Guys at Magic for each one. Follow us on all of our socials to keep up to date with everything else that we got going on. And in the description, we've talked about it multiple times, but go check out that EDH gameplay. We battle it out, see who comes out on top. Comment down below letting us know what you guys thought of our grades. Did we hit them on the head? Were we off by a couple? Let us know. Always interested to hear you guys' feedback. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Bye.
Bye bye.